What's up, everybody? We're back at it here today. A new trial has started for Hannah Gutierrez Reed, or Hannah Gutierrez, depending on what document you look at or who you ask. She was the armor on the set of Rust with Alec Baldwin, where somehow live ammunition got on set and it ended in a fatality. Halyna Hutchins passed, and that's why we are here for the criminal trial. Involuntary manslaughter, and then witness tampering revolving around some drugs that may or may not have been on set that Hannah Gutierrez Reed passed to someone else. So as the trial starts, it begins like most trials where the jury is picked. And we're going to focus and talk a little bit about that today, while also digging in for the first time, because I haven't watched these, but a couple clips and interviews from Hannah Gutierrez Reed just post-shooting. What did she say? Will it be used against her? What can we expect from this trial? So hit that like button if you guys haven't already. Let me know if you're going to be following along with this trial. A lot of you have been asking about it, especially from the Alec Baldwin side. This trial could absolutely affect Alec Baldwin's trial, and Alec Baldwin's team, you better believe, is going to be watching this trial and learning to see how the prosecutors plan on prosecuting this case, what their experts say, what the witnesses say about what happened on set, and things like that. So let me know if you're going to be watching in the chat. So jury selection, as most of you know, is a opportunity for the judge and the lawyers to ask questions to potential jurors to find out if there's any bias, whether they're good jurors for this case. It does not necessarily mean a good juror for your side, but most lawyers want the best jurors for their side, obviously. And some of the questions you can expect in jury selection like this are, do you know about the movie? Have you read the reports? Do you know Alec Baldwin? How do you feel about him? How do you feel about the movies that he's in? How do you feel about Westerns? How do you feel about guns? Do you just think nobody should ever have a gun, or guns are dangerous? Anybody that works around guns must be bad. Things like that are going to be questions they ask, because it's not about political views. But if you think anybody that touches a gun or holds a gun is bad and automatically negligent, then you're probably not going to be right for this trial, because there's going to be a lot of talk about guns, about how you should handle guns, about how you can negligently handle guns, the process and procedure for getting guns, using guns, things like that. So it's going to be a big part of this case. And I also think that there's going to be a lot of questions about Hollywood and about movies and about actors and who does what, right? Pointing, shifting the blame. The prosecutor's probably going to ask, do you think even accidents can be criminal? Because sometimes people are going to say no. Same thing with my cases when I ask in a car accident case, do you think it's wrong that somebody gets sued for an accident? Something they didn't purposely do, for unintentional conduct. So sometimes that is difficult for jurors to wrap their minds around, how we're going to criminally convict somebody and potentially throw them in jail for an accident. So I expect questions like that as well. I think jury selection is probably going to take multiple days. In our trials, it usually takes about 1 day, and we don't have many of the fame and celebrity issues that they have in this case. Each side gets to strike witnesses for cause, which means, if they say anybody with a gun is automatically negligent, or they say, I would never convict anybody of an accident, that's not following the law, and therefore they can be struck for cause. And then they have preemptory challenges where they can strike jurors for any non-discriminatory reason. So those are going to be the kind of strikes that we see, and eventually they will come to a jury that neither side picks, but both sides agree to, right? We always call it picking the jury. The lawyers pick the jury, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, it's really what both sides agree to, and not necessarily what either side picks. Thank you, Tina KS Law Nerd, for gifting those memberships. Hopefully everybody has gifting turned on so they can reap the benefits here. So we're going to watch some of these interviews. I want to hear what Hannah Gutierrez says. We'll break it down. We'll see how it compares to what Alec Baldwin says, and we'll see what can and will be used against her in her criminal trial coming up this week. All right, here we go.
Questioned about the difference between these and how a real bullet could have even gotten into the Colt 45 used by Baldwin during the rehearsal.
What are the purpose for the dummy rounds? Because you were loading those up this morning.
So the dummy rounds, they're meant to put in like the belts of the cowboys and everything, and like in the revolver you can see if it's empty or not. So yeah, I have to dummy them up if they're gonna be like looking right at the camera.
Oh, okay. So you just for show, the dummy rounds are just for show to make
It's
it look
just for
cool.
show. Yeah.
Okay. But then the other rounds that you guys
The
keep
other
on
rounds,
seeing.
yeah, the other
shoot a
rounds, yeah. They don't shoot a BB. No, no.
Oh.
No, they just shoot they just open up and a little black powder comes out, and that's all. It's just a little black powder, and yeah,
Is there live ammo that's kept on set?
no, never.
Okay.
Is there live ammo that's kept on set? No, never. And we know that there was live ammo on set, but how did it get there is going to be one of the big questions. And we know the prosecutor's theory at this point, from listening to some of the other hearings, is that Hannah Gutierrez Reed herself brought the live ammunition on set. So she says, no, never. It's not supposed to be there. And again, just like Alec Baldwin, if you create your own duty or agree to your duty that then you later breach, that's a lot more damning than, oh yeah, sometimes we have live ammo on set or not saying anything or saying it depends, but a flat out no, that could be very difficult. Azam asked how many potential jurors in a jury selection usually. 30 to 50 is average, but for this kind of case, for high profile cases, a lot more jurors are brought in. Usually that's something that's happened in the pretrial hearing. You discuss it with the other side, discuss it with the judge, talk about how many jurors you need, and then the judge decides how many jurors to call.
So
I hardly even go shooting with 45 ammo at all. I normally just use 22. So
and so you got the guns this morning. You and Sarah are the only ones who have. Is it a combination for the safe?
it is, yeah.
Okay, and you guys are the only ones who have that combination.
Mhm.
Okay, but the rounds.
So again, she's limiting herself in the group of people that even have a combination of the safe to have access to the gun. We know David Holes does as well, but limiting that down, again, if a defendant doesn't testify, if a defendant doesn't give interviews, if a defendant doesn't give statements, it's a lot harder for the state to prove all these things. But because of these statements, she's making it a little easier for the state to prove that it is in fact her duty and her responsibility.
They're in the truck, yeah. The truck gets pretty much locked up every night. I mean, not like padlocked, but just on set. Security.
Okay. Or do you guys have lunch? Does a lot of people just eat lunch there?
We all leave and we go back to base camp.
Okay. And you guys left the dummy rounds and the ammo, but it's not real ammo.
My bad, blanks, the blanks. Yeah, we'll go with blanks.
I'll use blanks.
Yeah.
Just so I also don't mix up in the confusion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you got the dummy rounds and the blanks this morning, what were you guys doing before lunch? Was that just
We were just
with the dummies only? Just
the dummies. We were just about to get into the blank stuff, and like part of my job is checking the barrel to make sure nothing's in it, because that's how Brandon Lee died.
Right.
So
So even using, and again, it's the first time we're watching this, even using the Brandon Lee example, knowing. So she has knowledge about how dangerous this is, how this shouldn't happen, and how it has happened in the past. Now the state's going to use that against her, but her team's probably going to use it saying it has to be foreseeable. What happened needs to be foreseeable. So she says no live rounds ever on set. Shouldn't happen like that. She didn't bring any on set. And any known risk, like leaving something in the barrel, which is how Brandon Lee died, she even checked for that. So she did her due diligence. That's what they're going to try to prove. Yes, the defense is not a burden of proof, but in this case, I think they are going to try to prove she did what she was supposed to do. And she was not negligent or reckless.
that's what I checked for. I definitely checked this morning, and I was planning on checking again right after lunch before we got into all the shits, and I already started checking the other two guns to check in the thing for them, and none of them had any barrel obstructions. So, yeah.
So you check the gun, but do you check the blanks and the dummies as well?
I do check the dummies. I shook all of them, and they all showed that they were not hot, I guess you could say.
So to me, it's clear she's not confident in her expertise. We know she is a little inexperienced for this position potentially, but everything similar to Alec Baldwin, she's sitting here saying she did everything right. She checked all of them. So you would say that would be an impossibility that a live round would end up in this firearm, yet that's what happened. So somebody dropped the ball. Somebody dropped the ball. No, she's not the film director. She is the armorer. She is in charge of weapons on set. Serenity said, did they drug test her? So I know there are some drug allegations involved with the tampering, and I think the state is going to use them to show how negligent and sloppy and bad the set was. But I don't think they drug tested her or are going to use that necessarily at the time. But as part of her negligence being around firearms and safety, having that drug issue is obviously an issue.
How can you tell the difference on the ammo, on the dummy rounds, or the blanks? I'm sorry. How can you tell the difference from the blanks and live, real ammunition?
A little ring. Like there's a little ring in there, just rings, it rattles. It's like a little rattle.
When it's a blank?
Yeah, and then also there's ones that I have with holes in the side to show that there's nothing in them.
Okay. So what are these ones? They're the rings?
So she explains what it's supposed to look like, what you look for, how you know it's a blank dummy round, not live, not hot.
Yeah, these ones were the rings. There was one, I think, with a hole. Yeah.
And you put the gun before going to lunch back in the safe?
Yes.
But the blanks and dummies were left on the cart?
Yeah.
Did you, when you got back, did they look moved or tampered with or touched when you got back from lunch?
They did not. No, nothing.
So it didn't look moved or touched or tampered with again. Therefore, she's saying it was in the same state that she left it, which again would make it her fault. But then again, she also can't say that it looked like it was tampered with, or else she should have done something about it. So it's very difficult to toe this line, especially if you're not sure. Jake asked if the trial will be televised. I believe so. I believe it is going to be streamed. B Rabbit said, what are her qualifications for being an armorer? She had been on sets, had some experience. I think her dad or stepdad is a big armorer in Hollywood. That's probably the biggest reason she got the job, but she does seem very young.
Nothing seemed out of the ordinary.
Was the gun still in the safe after lunch?
Yeah.
Who pulled it out?
Sarah pulled it out and she handed it to me.
Okay.
Her and Sarah are the only ones that had access, and it was in the safe after lunch, and Sarah handed it to her.
Yeah.
And you watched her?
Yeah.
Mine, where I'm trying to get with is because you can handle the gun, you obviously are going to be loading the gun, so that's why I'm concerned about the dummy and the blanks, because those were left out. And is there some way that somebody can alter them to make them still look like your dummy rounds?
Well, so that's the thing is that like bullets, like real bullets, pretty much look the same as dummies. The only difference is the rattle.
She says real bullets look the same as dummy rounds. We've heard some experts agree with that, some disagree with that. I'm going to wait till I hear what the experts say at trial and see what the jury has to determine based on that expert testimony.
And so, yeah, that's a choice, but also, I don't know, I'm kind of wondering, because I heard back in the day, dummies used to have like a primer cap.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if maybe it was one of those older ones or something like that.
Did you load them after lunch?
They were already loaded from before lunch.
Okay.
So that's the thing is like, you
How
know,
does that make sense? Why would you load it before lunch if you knew you were going to leave and then come back and handle it again? I don't get that.
we had that gun the whole time before that, and it was, nothing happened, and I wasn't in there, and they weren't supposed to be even pulling the hammer back.
So, okay. All right. Let me just clarify a little bit. So prior to lunch, the guns, you had them out.
Yeah.
And where were they when they were out?
They were inside with all the camera crew and everything. It's, COVID, everything happening right now. They don't really like a lot of people in there.
Okay.
And so usually I'm like hardly allowed in there unless there's actual firing happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you inside this morning?
I walked in there and I handed the gun to Alex a couple of times and Alec took it and everyone was there with him.
Alec?
Alec
Okay.
Baldwin, yeah.
Baldwin? Okay, so you handed him the gun this morning. Does he pass it off to anybody or were you able to see that?
At one point, Dave had it, the assistant director, but he was just sitting in with it. And then I saw him and I was like, okay, this is fine. He's just sitting in. And then I walked out and yeah,
And how do you know that Dave had it?
I handed it off to Dave while he was sitting in for the shot.
Okay. All right, so you guys were the only 3 handlers prior to lunch?
Alec, Dave, me. Dave was after lunch.
Okay.
Dave was after lunch. Yeah, that should have been the only ones. Maybe Sarah.
And those are all the people involved, right? Dave, her, Alec Baldwin, that's who was charged. Dave already pled guilty. She and Alec Baldwin pled not guilty. That's where her trial is starting today. So we're hearing all of the people involved.
Possibly, but yeah.
Did they do any?
They chill on our little table, and we're pretty much there all the time.
Okay. And then, so prior to lunch, did they do any scenes or anything of the sort where they were firing the weapon?
No.
Okay. So
Prior to lunch, when she was handling it, no scenes, no firing the weapon. So again, the other question is going to be, who should be handling it? What should she do to make sure it's a cold gun? Does she have authority to tell Dave Holes what to do? Thank you so much, Kathy, for gifting some more memberships.
just handling.
Yeah, we were just supposed to get into it right after that. Like literally, that was the last shot before we actually got into blanks.
Blanks are already loaded in before lunch.
No, the blanks are different than dummies. So yeah, blanks, totally different. They actually have like ignition and powder and everything. Dummies, no powder, just for looks.
Just for looks, right?
Yeah.
So I think everything was after lunch then. So
Mhm.
after lunch, you get back and that's when you loaded a dummy round. I mean, the blanks.
No.
No.
No blanks were loaded.
No,
Like,
all
no,
dummy
no.
today.
Yeah, no blanks were loaded today. I was like getting ready for it. I had my fanny pack. It's like full of like blanks and everything. But
Okay. So when was the last time you loaded it?
now I loaded it with the. So I loaded it with 5 of the dummy rounds before lunch, and there was one that wouldn't go in. And so when we got back from lunch, I took the like little cleaner guy, I cleaned it out really quick, and I put another dummy in there.
Okay. So there were 5 total in the gun.
Yeah,
Can you describe
there was 6.
6?
5, yeah. In
Okay.
the incident occurred, yeah, there were 6.
Stay with us. Coming up next, Gutierrez described tragedy.
Brutal. Could this happen?
Manslaughter.
All the data.
The gun, when Dave brought it back to you after the incident, did it look like it was the same gun when you handed it to Dave?
Somebody asked if this was a trial. This is not a trial. The trial started today. Jury selection still happening. I don't expect it to be done today. We're going to watch some of the interviews, get an idea of her side of the story, what the defense may be, if she testifies, what she may testify to, what the prosecutors can use against her with her words. That's why we're watching through some of these. I have never watched them before, so it gives us a little primer as to what we can expect during trial.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I would be able to tell too by there's like markings on the bottom of it.
Okay.
Do you remember what those markings are?
It's kind of like little fingernail marks, but like a little more dented.
Okay.
So Liberty said she couldn't sit on this jury. She knows too much. That's why they need more jurors and more days and more time to pick it, even though it's just a misdemeanor. It's not as serious as some other crimes. That's kind of why, because of things like what Liberty's saying, a lot of people know a lot about this case. Nirvana said, I love Alec Baldwin, but he has that fault, never checked before firing. And that's why we're going to get into duty, right? Duty is going to be a big part of this. Who breached their duty? How do we know that? That's going to be a big question in this case.
How much time? Okay, so how many guns were pulled out after lunch?
Like 7.
7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Miller has 2. Oh, maybe, okay, wait. Miller has 2. The 2 officers have 2, and then Russ has 1, and then there's 3 long guns out. So,
Okay, sorry.
I think they think by talking, they're going to prove they're innocent. That's what cops want you to think too. But it usually doesn't turn out that way. I think Azam asked earlier, so there's 6 jurors, I believe, in New Mexico for felony cases that aren't capital, 12 for a capital case. I don't know how many alternates they're going to pick. 3 weeks is a medium length trial. It's not, 3 months or 6 months like we've seen some of these in Florida with the gangs and rappers and RICO cases or federal cases. But it's longer than just your 1 week average trial where we pick 1 or 2 alternates. So I would expect them to have at least 3 alternates for a 3-week trial. So at least 9 people they're looking to pick, I would think.
Miller has 2. The officers have 2.
yeah.
Who else?
Rust has 1. That was the one that was discharged. And, yeah. And then we had 3 long guns that were on the cart. A shotgun and a rifle. 2 shotguns and a rifle.
And you're in charge of watching all of these.
Yeah.
2, 4, hold on, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And you said Rust? Who's
Yeah.
Rust?
Rust is the character. Who's Alec Baldwin.
Okay. And you handed it directly to him? Or did you hand it to Dave?
And I handled it to Dave after lunch.
And so then Dave gave it to
Yeah.
Alec. Do you know
In there.
who all was inside the building?
So again, from Dave Hull's perspective, he was like the middleman and he pled guilty. But if any of the 3 of them had the least amount of culpability, maybe it was him. He wasn't the last one with the gun. Maybe he called the cold gun, so that's why. But I mean, she had the gun. She had the access. She had the control. Hands it to Dave. Dave hands it to Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin's the last one and who may or may not have pulled the trigger. So I get the liability there. So it's an interesting kind of chain of events and sequence of events and how we ended up with the 2 pleading not guilty. We're on the 2 ends of the spectrum. Scott said, is jury selection televised? Usually not, for a million reasons. But if it is, like the Murdaugh case, you'll see the judge or hear the questions, maybe hear some of the answers, but you obviously won't see the potential jurors.
During the incident?
Some new camera people we got. Our camera crew just quit last night.
Wow.
Yeah, the whole fucking except for like 1 dude that stayed.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the DP, the director,
Do you know anybody's names?
Helena is the DP. She got shot. The director is Joel.
And you
He got
said-
shot.
I'm sorry, so DP?
Director of photography.
Okay. And that was Helena,
Mm-hmm.
Helena?
I'm not really sure how to spell it.
That's okay.
Good question.
Do you know her last name?
No.
And you said Joel, and he's another director?
Yeah, I'm Joel.
And you said that he was also shot?
Yeah, which is just mind-boggling to me. Yeah, both of them got shot.
I don't know, because look at that line. That's kind of a distinct thing. I think that's mostly for dummies. Hold on, that might be a regular live round though.
It looks pretty, that's what they were thinking, it could be a live round.
So this is before they even know it was a live round. she is thinking it seems like there's some kind of malfunction with a dummy round, but they're starting to tell her, no, we think it could have been a live round because this is what it looked like. John said, was this the same day as the accident? I think so. Either the same day or the next day. It was very, very shortly after.
No, I just, looks pretty, that's what they were thinking, it could be a live round. No, I just, like you said,
It feels like she starts to think, well, that's my fault then if it was a live round, because that's something she didn't know. And you can kind of see her reaction after she heard that.
and I think that is protocol because of Lee, when all that happened on set too. Was there anything that stuck out of the ordinary today to you?
No, I mean, just the whole camera crew quit. That's all. So we were like super behind and everything.
When did this camera crew quit?
Yesterday.
So is there a reason?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't think that they would be involved in that.
well,
Yeah.
is there because maybe people were disgruntled?
Oh, there was definitely some bickering, but I don't. Yeah, I highly doubt that they were able to switch any rounds, and especially getting
It does feel like that, Cheryl. It does feel like there was a switch when that came out.
a 45 round is like stupid hard right now,
Mm-hmm.
and at least yeah.
Was there any of that towards Joel, or did anybody have any issues with Joel, and what was the other one?
I don't believe anyone had issues with Joel.
Okay, what was
Helena,
Helena?
yeah. I don't know.
We're trying to figure out, did somebody do this on purpose to hurt Joel and Helena? And she doesn't think that would be the case.
I don't know too much about her. She's definitely a strong personality, that's all.
But there's nobody that you could think of that might have any anger?
I couldn't really say that anyone would be like that angry. Like, you know, we're on a film set, everybody's always pissed off at each other a little bit. We're together for 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard to not beef with people a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting that the whole camera crew quit yesterday, and then
That is pretty
something happens like this today. Would somebody want to maybe, or they could even have an issue without this. Somebody wants to disrupt the filming of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
I don't
something that you could think of?
I don't know. I can't really say for sure, and I wouldn't want to think that about anybody on that set personally.
You really don't want to think that about anybody,
Never.
but
no.
unfortunately,
Yeah, I can't think of like any one person. I couldn't really think of a situation that would require like, you know, I don't know, almost killing somebody.
well, I mean, it happened. I mean,
Yeah.
you keep mentioning it was The Crow when that happened.
Yeah, that was scary, man.
These things happen with
Dude,
somebody.
I know, I can't believe I'm like the last thing like this to happen since The Crow.
And
My own worst nightmare.
unfortunately, well, I think right now they're
She says it's her worst nightmare. Again, these are things they're going to follow up if she testifies. So what did she mean? Why did she say that? She knows she's at fault, stuff like that.
good, but I'm seeing that's why, unfortunately, you were there that way, like, oh, it's the person
Yeah.
who is in charge of all these.
It's like, obviously the person in charge of all the weapons is going to be somebody we look at and run the world. Thought it was interesting too. Nothing seemingly has come from that, but, or maybe she didn't like her. I don't know.
Totally.
And that's why we wanted to talk to you. It was one of
Yeah.
the main ones because, yeah, you're in charge of it, but that's also why would you put yourself in that predicament?
Yeah.
You know, so would it be possible?
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe there was just perhaps a bad round in that box.
Perhaps a bad round in that box. So if the state, again, some stuff we don't know, but if the state can prove, in fact, no, this was not a bad round in a box of rounds. This was not a round even provided by the ammunition provider. This is something that was individually brought on set. Now, not intentional, because that's not what they charged. Scott said, could Dave have pled guilty for a deal to testify against them? Yeah. Yeah, and his punishment was basically a slap on the wrist. He's not going to end up going to prison or anything like that, but it's a pretty good case to fight. And if everybody else is fighting, it is interesting when one person does plead guilty and take a deal. Charcoal Daisy said, "You're an absolute legend, Peter. I watch you all the time from Australia, and I just have to thank you for your amazing coverage and inspiring me to believe in fair justice despite big time bullying." Thank you so much, Charcoal Daisy. Bev, Peter, could you say a bit about the evidence tampering charge against her, giving narcotics to a crew member after the shooting? What's that about? Yeah, I mean, anytime you do anything to alter evidence on a set, on a crime scene, when cops are investigating, especially if it could have to do with the negligence, which they are trying to make that nexus, that having the cocaine and the drugs on set is also negligent, sloppy, mishandling of ammunition, not how you should do it. So that's how they're going to try to connect it for the additional charge here that's going to be had in this trial. They tried to sever it, and the judge said, no, it's going to come in. They're going to try them all together.
Well, a couple of bad rounds, possibly, because there wasn't one round that went off.
What? There was one, right?
Because those people get shot.
No, so there was only one round that went off, and I must have went through Joel somehow and hit Helena, and I'm like flabbergasted by this. I can't imagine how that happened, but I heard one shot.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard one shot, and honestly, like, I opened up the gun, I checked the rest of them. Only one of these was gone, and the rest were fine.
Everything else seemed.
And Complex Lit, this is going to be a question, I think, for the experts and the Hollywood experts. It's like, what type of person is the armorer usually? What are they doing? Why are they going over the top? Why is that so important? All those kinds of questions. Yeah, Joanne, I do think that's going to be a question for the jury. Like, would you trust her to be the armorer? And then does that fall on Alec Baldwin when his trial comes? Did he make this decision? Should he be responsible for some of her actions as her boss? A lot of things happening.
Normal with the round.
Everything else seemed status quo, and I thought today was going to be another, like, super great day and that we were done shooting after this, and it's going to be smooth sailing.
So each of the rounds that I showed you, you think it could have been from the
Dummies, yeah. Honestly, I can't remember really if I got, if they were from the box or if they were from, on top of we have a cart, you know, and we have several dummies just around. Some come out of the box, some are, but they're all out of boxes really, like, you know. But yeah, might have just been one of the ones on the cart. But it should be, yeah.
And that's your car. Nobody else puts anything else on it.
Not really. I mean, you know.
Not really. Like, those are the types of answers where it's like, your answer should be no, you should know it. It should be emphatic. You should make sure of that. That's your job for the safety. But if she says that, she's in kind of a lose-lose situation, because if she says that, they're going to be saying, but it happened. So you agree, you blew it. But for her to say not really kind of leaves the door open that sometimes people do, but they for sure shouldn't. So she's kind of in a lose-lose position here. John said, if the bullet wasn't intentionally brought on set, could it be an issue from the ammo production company? That's something the defense is going to argue. That's a question a lot of people have had throughout the process. The prosecution and some of the hearings have inferred that they don't believe that to be the case. And testing that they did, the round that actually was the fatal round does not match that from the production company. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Because if all of you guys have this question, my guess is the jury's going to have a similar question.
But it is possible.
It is possible.
A lot of people have access to your car.
Yeah.
So as you're loading it, do you do and check every single time?
Yeah.
Every round?
Yeah.
And you did it
Checks every round, every single time.
on this time too?
Yeah.
Every round?
Yeah.
And you did it on this time too?
I did it.
Okay.
So she's saying she checked every single round this time. So how do you explain it? It seems, this from her, that she checked every single round and she's positive, she knows the difference, and it was not there when she handed it to David Holes Alec Baldwin saying he's sure he didn't pull the trigger. I think the state is kind of going to say, listen, members of the jury, when they try to tell you the sky is pink, which I always hate that analogy because the sky can be so many different colors. I should say when they tell you grass is purple and you know it's not, you can use your common sense. When she tells you she checked every single round and there was no live ammo, but we know for a fact there was, you can use your common sense. When Alec Baldwin tells you didn't pull the trigger and our experts tell you that's the only way this bullet goes through the chamber and goes in through out the gun, you can use your common sense. I do think there's going to be a lot of that type of argument in these trials. Now, hers is first, Baldwin's will be later.
But that one round, if you weren't sure if it was fresh out of the box or just laying on the cart.
Honestly, I don't think, like, if it didn't rattle, I wouldn't have put it in.
And so you heard the rattle.
Yeah, I checked all 6 of them for a rattle.
And the other explanation is, well, there must have been something wrong with that round. When she shook it, it didn't rattle or whatever. And I don't know how they're going to prove that.
It's just really, I mean, coincidence, I guess, sometimes
I knew somebody was going to get me. I knew somebody was going to get me because I'd say the same thing. That's what always goes through my head is the anti of whatever somebody says, just for argument's sake.
but does the whole crew quit the day before and then something like this happened?
I don't know. I totally feel like this was just really up accident.
That's how you feel.
Yeah. I wouldn't think that anyone on that film set is that malicious.
I mean, I just have to ask you,
Yeah, no,
because
totally.
it is something.
Well, yeah.
What about Sarah? How much do you know about her? How long have you worked with her?
Like the nicest little Christian girl ever.
Okay.
Best little Christian girl ever. Is that what she said? So I guess that's her way of saying she doesn't think she would do this. And again, she's basically saying she doesn't think anybody intentionally did this. And we know now in hindsight, they don't charge anybody for intentionally doing this.
Extractor in the armor. So,
Extractor.
yeah, for those. Yeah. So I'm gonna take one of the real quick. Okay. Totally. I'll be back in just a minute. And so, just to be clear, the one that you had seen, that you had pulled out, looks like which one?
That's like that one.
Okay. With the.
Yeah, that's when I saw it. It was so
We can't see what she's holding, but these officers can testify, obviously. This is what I was holding. This is what she said, especially if she's wrong.
punctured. So no, it
And
wasn't
the
pretty
previous
good. When I took it out, yeah, it was punctured. So
Joining us now.
When I took it out, it was punctured, she said. All right, let's jump to another one here. The next two we're going to watch are both really short. But maybe they add some context. Again, you guys sent me all of these, so we're going to watch all three of these together.
Oh my God, fuck. Are they okay?
Hey, Santa Fe, we need more units out here.
Huh?
I haven't been inside, I don't know.
God, oh my God.
I already know the first
I already have been yelled at several times.
She said, I've already been yelled at. It's kind of hard for me to make out what she's saying.
Are these the rounds here?
So, okay,
We have rounds here.
okay, no, so this is the one I'm pretty sure. That's the one. And okay, sorry.
You're okay.
Sorry.
Just relax. Just relax.
So scared. I'm sorry.
You're all right. Just relax.
So here's the box that I got them out of.
Okay. Leave them right there. Leave them right there. Okay. Relax. I just need you to relax. Just relax. Okay.
I do think with the drug charges, depending on how the state wants to handle it, right? The state can put in that, you can see or you can judge, use your common sense. We know she was getting rid of drugs. Or maybe they won't be allowed to argue that. But even if they don't argue it, some jurors will likely make those connections, connect those dots. Probably one of the reasons the defense wanted to keep it out and sever it, which I get that. So it's interesting. But yeah, this is really sad. And again, it doesn't seem like she's really on top of it and super competent to handle this situation. I don't know if anybody would be, frankly, at this point.
I just need you to relax. Just please relax, okay? Just take deep breaths and relax. Can somebody get water for her? There's water, right?
The ambulance.
No, no, the helicopter's here for her. Yep, the helicopter's here for her.
Is she fucking? Where the fuck are these entry wounds? Is she okay? Can somebody tell me anything?
I don't know anything. Right now, I don't know. I'm just trying to secure everything. Okay.
All right. And we have one more here. All right, let's take a listen to this one.
Rounds.
That's news to me. Wow.
That is the reaction of Hannah Gutierrez Reed when detectives told her they found multiple live rounds stored on set of the movie Rust. It was a live round in a prop gun fired by actor Alec Baldwin that killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins. As the movie's armorer, Gutierrez Reed is in charge of guns on set. Detectives had her walk them through how she checked the one that killed Hutchins.
But you said only 4 then.
Now the bald guy is her lawyer. We've seen him in some of the hearings. This is an interview, obviously, much later on. And they're talking to her. She's still cooperating. She's still talking to them. So she's continued to do that kind of through the case, which usually means they're going to testify at trial once you've given this many statements, recorded statements, with your lawyer, without your lawyer. Usually it's an indication of that, but not always.
No primer caps and the other 2 did.
Yeah, and the other 2 did. Yeah, I pulled that other one out slightly and looked for the hole.
I mean,
She pulled the other one out slightly and looked for the hole, meaning to know that it was a dummy.
those holes are at the bottom though. You'd have to pull it out a pretty good ways.
I'm pretty sure it was like kind of midway.
Detectives then questioned her about telling the
She said, so there was even a dispute right there in that discussion as to whether you'd even be able to see the hole if you only pulled it out part way. Is that negligent? And that's kind of where our mindset is everything she did throughout this process. Did she do something that was negligent that caused the death? Because if she did and they can prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, then she's guilty. So you can point the finger at a million different people, and like we've talked about in other cases, multiple people can be at fault for this. There can be multiple direct causes for the end result. But if you are one of the direct causes of the end result, which is the fatality, then you are guilty of this crime.
difference between a live round and a dummy.
That was the one that came out of the gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know if you notice commonality between these that we suspect them to be live.
The silver. Okay. All right.
That didn't stick out to you when you loaded that gun?
No.
The focus.
So again, a lot of this, we need some context when the officers actually testify. But she asked the question, that didn't stick out to you when you loaded the gun? And Hannah Gutierrez Reed said, no, as opposed to, I didn't load that in the gun, or I didn't load the gun, or that's not what it looked like when I loaded it, or that's a different bullet than what I loaded. She didn't answer any of those ways. She just said, no, that didn't stick out to me when you loaded the gun. Almost sounds like an admission that she put the live round in the gun. And if she put the live round in the gun, I think it's really hard for her to win this case. Now, we'll see if that's how the evidence actually comes out, but that's how it's kind of being pitched in this. And again, first time I'm watching this clip.
Then turned to how live rounds got into several places where they keep dummy rounds.
And again, from the initial interview, we found out when she says, no way, no live rounds on set, that it wasn't just the live round that ended up being the fatal shot. There were live rounds in multiple different places on set that shouldn't have been there. How did they get there? Why? She's supposed to be in charge of this. What happened?
Gutierrez Reed told detectives she never did any target practice or fire weapons on set for fun. The detective then pointed out something about the live rounds.
Here's my thing with this company is this company doesn't produce live ammo.
So the company that I think she's pointing to, which is the box that Hannah Gutierrez Reed said she got the bullets out of, does not produce live rounds. Hence why productions probably use them. That makes sense, right? So they can't get them mixed up at the shop or the factory or on the truck or in delivery. Yet, I believe she's pointing to a picture of the box that Gutierrez-Reed said she got them out of, that she loaded, or at least a box from the company that produced most of the ammunition on set.
So what the? That's insane.
Wow.
That had Gutierrez-Reed's attorney questioning whether there was some sort of sabotage on set.
Was able to fire?
Made it into a live round, or just,
Are you serious?
That's speculation.
Oh my
Because-
God.
So somebody made it into a live round, the lawyer says.
The detective concludes the interview, still wondering where the live ammo came from.
Why would there be live ammo on the set?
I have no idea. At this point, it's kind of seeming like somehow these were mixed in.
But even if they were mixed in, right? Number one, how did they get on set? Number two, shouldn't you still have noticed if this was your job? That's the problem.
Stephanie Chavez, KRQE News 13.
Yeah, that's problematic to me. I mean, I don't know how it doesn't come back on them with that set of facts and circumstances. Nirvana said this is similar to the death of Brandon Lee, so sad. And they referenced that multiple times throughout these interviews. Quickly, the difference in her appearance, strategic. I don't know. Nina, how is this case different to Crumbly? Neglect led to the death of someone else, but was she the only responsible person? So I think it's way different than Crumbly because she handed him the gun for the purpose of doing what he did with it. And she was in charge. It was her job to make sure it's safe. She had an actual duty. I do see this as different than the Crumbly case. And Crumbly's mom was charged with a much more severe crime. Nina, I saved these till the end. Can I buy the beard back? And then Francis said, this is for the Beard Fund. JB Bueno called me today and said, loving the stash. If you put up a poll, my vote's to keep it. I said, you'll be in the minority there. You might be the only one that votes for that. The beard will be back eventually. Luckily, this is how I was made, and it'll continue to grow, and it's already on its way back. I will be on News Channel 8 tonight talking about the Gabby Petito case if anyone wants to check that out. But this case is going to be really interesting. A lot of interviews, a lot of statements made. We're probably going to see a lot of that in both of these trials, but a lot of argument, a lot of gray area, a lot of defenses in these cases. So I'll be checking the comments later to see how many of you guys are interested in this and how many of you guys are going to be following this case. Hit that like button if you haven't already, if this is a case you want us to follow on this channel, because you guys, the subscribers, the members, you're the ones that pick the content. If you're not interested, I'll move on to the next one. If you are, let me know by hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel. I appreciate you guys so much for joining me. We will continue to follow up on this case if it's what you guys are interested in. Hopefully we get a jury picked sooner rather than later and can get to the evidence and the arguments. But for now, that's all I've got. Till next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.